KoitCast.
And now a quick request from me before the interview begins. Please can I ask you all to subscribe to this channel. It's very important as it helps me to attract new guests and to help this channel grow. Please also like, share the content and also comment on the videos. All these interactions will help my channel grow. Thank you ever so much. And now over to the interview. Hi Rebecca, welcome to KoitCast.
Oh, hello, Koit. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you ever so much for coming on. You came highly recommended, and I always like highly recommended guests on, so fair play. So let's jump straight in with about you. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? All the good stuff.
Okay, my name's Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I coined the word back in around 2005. I coined the word exoconsciousness, which defines as the innate, so it's a natural human ability innately that all humans have to connect, communicate, and co-create with extraterrestrials, multidimensionals, and spiritual beings.
Wow. A powerful sentence. I'd be remiss if I didn't tag on to the end of that. So let's jump in with, what do you mean by co-creation?
Co-creation is probably the two foundational pillar, well, three really foundational pillars are co-creation and discernment and creativity. So we believe that humans are naturally curious, creative. Humans like to invent things and manifest things and bring them to life, whether it's another life in parenting, or it's a technology, or it's some kind of modality that we bring forth. But we put a little bit of a different emphasis on that to say that as we create, we're more than a brain. So we're more than just neural connections inside our skull. We're quite frankly in communication with this vast field of consciousness, kind of Rupert Sheldrake morphogenic field, that there's information coming and going, and we're participating in this field. So as we participate in this field, we come in contact with beings, different beings, depending on, what we're looking for, what our orientation in life is. And when we get to that level of creativity, then we allow that information to come into us and influence what we're creating. So especially in our community, if you're benevolent, so this is where the discernment piece comes in. If you want to do something for the good of humans, for the good of Earth, for the good of the cosmos, then you would be intentionally attracting in that kind of assistance and support. So as an exoconscious human, so we don't really identify ourselves as I'm an ET or I'm whatever, but I'm a human. I'm totally human. But as a human, I have this ability to co-create and to work in the field of consciousness for the good, for the good of all myself and for the good of others.
A question I've always had in relation to this side of things, this theory of things, which is, where does my imagination end and external consciousness or thoughts begin? I.e., if I decide to get up tomorrow, as an example, I'm working on a video for one of my songs. How do I know that thought of the next scene is mine versus external?
Well, I think that's where you have to use discernment. So it's not like we're giving over our human sovereignty or our human will or our human intelligence like you would give it over to AI or a robot or an implant. We're not giving it over. We're having kind of this peer-to-peer relationship. And a lot of times when you're in this relationship, things come in that you don't like. It's like, I don't like that. I'm not using that. I'm not using that idea, but thank you very much, but no thanks. Or hello to a new idea that's coming in. In terms of boundaries and delineations, we're talking about consciousness at that point, and I would say, or the mind. So if you just stick with the word consciousness, I don't really think that we've been able to totally define that. I think we're still mucking around in the waters of it, trying to have a scientific explanation for it. And I don't think we're there yet. And this one man looked, there's like 90 different definitions of consciousness out there that
Yeah,
we could tap
difficult.
into. So yeah, I mean, in terms of setting a boundary or putting something in a category, um, so I was a philosophical theology major, and like theologians and philosophers, they love to make these, and scientists, they like to make these little categories everything fits in. I don't know that we have the category yet. We'll probably get it, but it's going to take a natural human consciousness to achieve it. I don't think AI is going to achieve it. I think natural humans will achieve whatever definition comes forward.
So that'll
Hopefully, there
define.
will be natural humans
Yeah, of course, and that's what
to
we
do
always
that.
want. But that would define the boundary of, say, my mind, like it goes
Hmm.
out to X distance or whatever, or
Yeah.
has X abilities.
Hmm.
I've spoken to like so many mediums and contactees and stuff, and they hear messages or get messages. But if it was me in that position, and I'm speaking from a naive person here, so please bear with me, I always think, how do I know that that's my thought now? That question I've just asked you, is that my thought or did that come from external? How do I know?
I don't think that it could have been that your body, that your nervous system is putting together all these different patterns and these new creative ideas are emerging, or it may be that it's coming from an outside source. I don't know that we have the capability to actually um, determine that, but I think our human body as well as our mind can help us determine that, because when an idea comes in, you can either accept it or reject it if it's coming from the outside, or even within you, that you're unaware that it came in from the outside. And I think our human bodies, like our gut, would be a way to determine, do I want that thought or do I not want that thought? And then there's another layer of complication to this, quite frankly, with AI, because artificial intelligence, transhumanism want to be able to read our minds and write into our minds. So there's that added layer. Is it coming from AI? Is it coming from some kind of electronic message that's being beamed into my head? I mean, we've had voice to skull technology for 70 years. I think they're pretty good at it by now.
Yeah, and that's a massive topic, the whole where technology fits in with our living
Yeah. But we
consciousness, so to
have
speak.
to we have to be aware that that's what we're living in. That's what's here. That's what's here and now. And that's why discernment is so important for natural humans. So my last book was Exoconscious Humans, and the subtitle was Will Free Will Survive in an Increasingly Non-Human World? And I was looking at the comparison of exoconscious humans and transhumans. So I think that my work as a contactee and my work in consciousness and my work in the extraterrestrial presence and the multidimensional presence and the spiritual presence really led me into, whoa, we need to slow down here and look at what other humans are doing in the field of mind and in the field of brain. So
Okay,
it's much more complex than all of a sudden humans have made it so much more complex
by
than,
adding a third sort of
50,
entity, so
yeah,
to speak.
or
Yeah.
like, 75 years ago, oh, I'm just a psychic person. It's very different now.
So let me get this straight in my head. If we're going to define terms before we carry on, so you've got consciousness, which we would just say is me as an example. I'm a conscious being because I think
Right.
that I am. I know that I
Awareness.
am,
I'm
and
aware of
yeah,
myself. I would
awareness.
say basic. Yeah, I have that's a ongoing. It's not a concept. It's really a process. It's an ongoing process of my awareness.
Yeah, so that's what category, even though we don't like them, I probably put myself in. And
Right.
exo presumably means outside of or external. So that is
Right.
other consciousnesses out there that are interacting with us.
With me, yeah, or with
And
you.
then you've
Yeah.
got the third group, which you've just talked about, the technology, so to speak, that
Yeah.
could then
Yeah.
interact with us as consciousness beings.
Yeah, it
Is
makes you
that right?
humble. Yeah, it makes you humble to be a human. You better
Yeah,
have some humility in this game.
I
You
like
better
being a
not
human,
think that
actually.
you know it all because, yeah, it's too vast right now. It's too vast. And I think humans are really grappling with humans that are awake and aware of it. Many people are unconscious of it for good reasons. But yeah, it's challenging. It's much more challenging today than, 75 or 100 years ago.
Yes, well, obviously with more input coming in, it's confusing people. So the exo part of this, the non-human intelligence, is let's call it that. This is the etheric field that you referred to. What is that? Is there any sort of like scientific investigations into what it is, and can we define it in any way?
I would say that it's probably at some point, there's some active consciousness element to it. So if you go, so you're a Brit, so they're really into like the earth and the wells and the elementals and the nature beings that of the earth. So the plants, the animals, I think, everything has this consciousness energy to it that humans cook into on the earth. But I think also there's multidimensional beings like angels or demons or whatever you want to call them. But these spiritual beings also are communicating with us, or we're also communicating with them. And then we have what I would define as extraterrestrial beings, which are different, which come from, within the cosmos. That's part of our cosmic consciousness that people also connect to. So once again, it's a much more complex field than just, a non-human intelligence or a ET or whatever. I mean, it's so you're getting different information from all of those different beings, depending on where you want to. I mean, humans have a lot of creativity and sovereignty in this. They can kind of pick and choose.
Yeah, and I like to think that I'm independent and sovereign. This is why I'm always like hung up on that question: is where do I end and where does external begin? It
Right.
fascinates me, that one.
I don't think there really is a boundary unless you want to put one in.
My mind says I should, but that maybe that's just the logical part of me being that way, you know?
And it might be also kind of an evolutionary survival
Hmm.
that if I have a boundary, I'll be safe.
Looking
If I
after the
limit
self.
myself,
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
safe, like, hiding in a cave or, whatever. Yeah. That limiting, there's safety and limitation. Well, there is safety and limitation.
Hmm.
When you're raising kids, you're like, no, you're at some point, it's like, no, you're not going to cross the street without me. There's a limit there. There's a hard limit there. So, and then your kids become adults and you're like, okay, figure it out. You got all the
Go over
tools,
there.
go out
Yeah,
there. I have no limits for you. You're going to figure it out.
exactly. Um, Now, in terms of the contact side of things, this is a big question, and I know it probably can't really be answered simply, but what is the purpose of contact? Let's just take an example. Let's just go with extraterrestrial beings then that you said were physically in the universe, which I believe that are there, by the way. What is the purpose of them contacting us, do you think?
Well, I think part of the purpose, and this is, you know, I don't mean to be, I don't mean to speak out of line because once again, it takes a lot of humility to be in this field. But I think one of the purposes is that humans are naturally cosmically conscious. Like we've always been part of the stars. We've always been part of the universe. We've always been part of longing to go into space. The Russians called it cosmism, that there's this longing, Teilhard der Schaden, there's this longing to be into the cosmos, and we're connected to it. That our life form as humans, our life form as earth beings, our life form as a planet is connected to a larger system that we're naturally aware of that. And why wouldn't be aware of that? So I think that's one purpose. It's just to feel that connection, to know that I'm in that connection, that connection is bringing me information, and I am consciously participating in that connection within space. I would say a second would be that it's also part of our soul and spiritual journey. Um, a lot of our spiritual journey on Earth is about, who we get in relationships with, the children that are part of our life, the partners that are part of our life, our parents. All of that is certainly a magnified soul journey here on Earth, but also we have a soul journey with the cosmos. And I think that soul journey is going to become, quite magnified. I worked for 6 years with an Apollo 14 astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And that's all part of our human purpose, is to know ourselves within a cosmic realm that at this point we don't even know, talking about limits, we don't even know what the limit of that is.
Mm.
The cosmic limit of that is. So I think that's one of the purposes. I think also third, I would say that a person goes into um, the cosmos, goes into extraterrestrial knowledge because there's something in them that is resonating with a frequency out in the cosmos, and their beings, specific beings that they're resonating with. And they know that that's part of who they are, and they want to get to know that part of them better as an earth human, to really strengthen that cosmic tie. So it could be a very personal mission for people.
Mm. So it seems like it's boiling down to we need to be aware of the bigger sandbox in which we're playing, sort of thing.
Right. And I think another thing that does is it helps us also, ironically, as we become aware of the bigger sandbox we live in, we become a lot more responsible for caring for Earth and what we're doing to Earth, and that what we do to Earth has, ramifications out into this larger, vaster universe, and that, back to boundaries, and that actually boundaries could be set on us. I mean, go back to the Atlantean narrative or Lemuria, that especially the Atlantean narrative, that the Atlantean narrative, that possibly weapons of destruction were created, that an outer force came and said that that will be no more. We will not have that in our universe, in our creative universe,
And thus wiped that civilization off the planet in theory. Yes.
and thus
Yeah.
wiped it. And then it spread and went to other places. I think that force is still on the planet, but it's a very humbling experience, I would say, to realize the vastness of that, and to realize that that's why exoconsciousness is so important, is because I think once the bombs were dropped, the atomic bomb was dropped, the atomic bomb was scientifically explored, then all of a sudden, you know, we and then we were exploding bombs up in the ionosphere for so long that no one really knew about what was going on with that. And we were in a sense tearing the universe apart and not knowing what we were going to do. So I'll just say on a personal note, so I lived in Dayton, Ohio, um, for some years, and I worked near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where Blue Book was put together, and
Hmm.
a lot of Hangar 18 mythology around Wright-Patterson. But up the street from our home was a little place called Runnymede Playhouse, and that's where they did a lot of the Manhattan Project for the bomb. So it's like I was
Mm.
living down the street from the engineers that were, tearing the fabric of the universe. And what does that mean? And
Yeah.
and
What does it mean going forward? Yeah.
yeah, so that's
Yes.
why when I worked with Dr. Mitchell, the astronaut, we were working on zero point energy, and what do are there alternative energies and alternative means to peace, instead of this tearing of the universe, tearing of the whole fabric of the universe. Do we need to do that? Do we really need to have that
Well,
in our
I'd rather
world?
we didn't. Yeah, you don't want
Rather
that
we
on this
didn't.
earth, do we? Not only for the radiation side of things and the amount of things it kills, but yeah, if the whole universe is a spider's web sort of thing, where you set off something and it's just vibrating out and affecting everything going out and all the tendrils, yeah, it's clearly a bad thing.
Yeah.
You use the question, what are you going to do with your contact from your website? What does that mean and how does that play into the co-creation idea? I like it, by the way.
Yeah, I like it too. So I'm a big questioner. I'm a coach. So I was sort of a traditional therapist for a while and a traditional counselor. I was more a counselor. And then I got into coaching and I went, oh, this is the way because coaching just really is asking questions. So I was raised by a father who was like, just ask away, ask all the questions you want. You're allowed to ask every question, any question you want to ask, you're allowed to ask in that question. And so I just felt really at home with that from my upbringing. And I've really taken that into my work and into my coaching work. And I believe that when you have members who want to come together in a community to co-create and they are contactees, that those people are going to bring forward information and tools and technologies that we can all support and we can support them and the beings with whom we are all working come together and begin to support them also. So that's the for me, so I've been in this field a long time. So initially, there was kind of the era of, I'm going to tell my contact story, you know,
Yeah.
5,000 times, on and on. And I'm just going to tell my story. And I was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, that gets a little old after a while. Don't you think maybe you should be expanding that into doing something with your story? Like, what are you going to do?
Mm.
You're more than your story. You're a creative, intelligent, competent person. You know, bring some material reality to this fantastic story that you want to tell other people. What are you going to teach them how to do? What are you going to share with them? What are you going to create? What are you going to bring in? You going to be a healer? You're going to be an artist? You're going to be an inventor? What are you going to be? You're going to be a teacher? Go be it.
A question comes to mind here then. Is the contact experience, whatever that contact experience may be, is that just an opening of the door, and i.e. the beginning of the journey?
Hmm.
That's what it is. And then the real
I think it's the
mission or
beginning.
journey is after the door.
So it's kind of like,
Hmm.
if you want to equate it to mystery schools, like, um, the Templars or the Masons or, the Theosophy or whatever. They all have these, Gurdjieff or whoever, Steiner, they all have these levels of initiation that they put people through. And I think that's kind of how humans grasp larger concepts. And I think probably for contactees, step one in the initiation is I'm going to give voice to my contact. I'm going to tell other people about it. And I think there's people out there working with contactees, allowing them space and community and support to share that place that they're in. And when my coaching groups come together, people usually share their story. But for me, I see myself more as a coach or facilitator of people who want to take it to that next level of sharing these ongoing messages. So there's a man in our group, Nick Prestera. You can find all of our group at exoconscioushumans.com. There's a whole list of people. So he got a message that he was to create a consciousness technology. And he'd been in communication systems like AT&T for years. So all of a sudden, he's grappling with something, a spiritual conscious technology, like what's going on here? And he really grappled with it. And, weekly he would check in with the group until we launched something called the Beacon. It's up on our Exoconscious Humans YouTube. So he launched a beacon that is a stationary consciousness platform that goes, I think, 25 miles into the earth and 100 miles above the earth. Um, Another person in our group, I think Kevin Briggs, did you interview Kevin?
Yeah, I spoke to Kevin about a
Yeah,
week or so ago.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So like Kevin, interestingly in our group, Kevin talks about the Council of Eight. So his role is kind of like a teacher and a leader and a facilitator for people to understand this galactic race of beings that are here to assist us. But in the group, Karen McLeod started working with Kevin, and as Kevin was channeling, she became the archivist for Kevin. And I don't know many channelers that have archivists or are humble enough to say, wow, somebody's going to care enough about my work. And Karen does care about Kevin's work, that she's going to be an archivist for me. And it's been so enriching to watch their interactions of, Kevin will say he brought in this information and Karen will affirm it. Or sometimes Kevin will say, I brought in this information, and Karen will say, no, this is actually what you said. These are your actual words. And it's such a fascinating dynamic between them. And then a third element came forward because uh, Aurora, who's another member of our group, she became the artist. So she gave physical artistic expression to what Kevin was experiencing. So that's co-creation. So not only are Kevin, Karen, and Aurora working together, but the beings, this Council of Eight beings, are coming together and also working with them. And as Kevin, Aurora, and Karen work within our group every week, we are all participating in that. It's
It
fascinating.
is fascinating when you think it's just pieces of the puzzle coming together to make the big picture, which is a thing or a theory that I'm fascinated in again. But I do have a question on this, right? If you hadn't have created this group, then presumably Kevin wouldn't have got together with his archivist, or would that have happened anyway, do you think?
I don't have the faintest idea,
No, I don't either, but I like it because
but
that question says, are we fated to do something? Will it eventually turn out
I,
that way or
you know, I
not?
don't think we're fated, but I do think that we have free will. And I think Kevin jumped into this group, as did Kevin and Aurora, like, okay, whatever manifests here, I'm here for it. I'm here to work this through.
Hmm.
And I would say that would they have found themselves in another place? Yeah, probably, because they were open for it.
I see what you mean. The intention was there, and I know there's a lot of power on
Right.
intention, isn't there?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And their creative energy is also, I may have scheduled a group and sent out the Zoom, but their participation together is what created that.
It's wild when you really go into it and think about all these things. Really wild, and I'll
Well,
get to
that's
what I mean in
that's
a
that
second.
that's the whole foundation of co-creation. Don't give yourself too much credit.
Yeah, I don't know whether I
Yeah.
like that or don't like that though, because it makes me think that it goes back to my question again. Am I creating my funny songs and animations and the videos that I make, or is somebody else doing that? Am I taking credit for another entity's or the etheric field's work?
Maybe just ask the question.
I do all the time, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I never get the answer. Maybe I'm not necessarily from the people I'm speaking to, but like from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So it's
I,
fascinating. I
I
think that
think
question for ages.
creative people like you are especially drawn to this kind of exoconsciousness work because of that, because you felt that force in your work.
Oh, all the time. I'll give you an example, right? I get like my alarm goes off at 8 every day, regardless. And I like to lie in bed for another 15, 20 minutes and I ask the universe, what's next? as in, I'm doing this video. What scene shall I make today? And within that 10, 20 minutes, I'll have 2 or 3 ideas that will see me through the day. But am I, this is where I go back to that question again, am I asking the universe and getting that, or am I just thinking these things?
I think you're asking.
I am asking.
Obviously, you are asking. I think
Yeah.
you just answered your own question.
Did I though? So I asked.
Yeah,
does
you
that mean that I
did.
then get?
You said I take that 10 or 15 minutes.
I do.
When my alarm goes off at 8 o'clock, and I ask what's next.
And then
So
I get
you're
the information.
opening yourself to that field of consciousness in the mind of what's next.
Yeah. Maybe
You're
I
not
just need
taking
to.
out a piece of paper and going, strategically as a human, point 1, point 2, point 3. No, you're opening yourself up and asking.
Which then,
every day.
Yes, every day. Does that mean then that imagination is not local to this being? Imagination is really just reaching out to the etheric field. Is that what we're doing?
I think that's true. Yeah. And you might really benefit from reading Rudolf Steiner's work on imagination. Do you know Rudolf Steiner?
I don't. I will write it down and have a look.
Anthroposophy, Steiner. He was in Dornach outside of Basel, Switzerland. And he's part of a mystery school, but he talked a lot about imagination and the role of imagination. These mystery schools, whether they were Egyptian, Lemurian, a lot of the topics that we are discussing today, whether they were like, Masons or Templars or, Theosophy people or, whatever. There's many mystery schools, Egyptian. These issues that we're talking about lived in these mystery schools. And knowledge was generated from, historic, centuries back and seeded into these mystery schools in many ways to keep this information alive for humans. That when they were ready, they could, Steiner would appear for them, or Blavatsky would appear for them, or, an Egyptian being would appear for them. So that in terms of imagination and creativity, a lot of them were alchemists. So they were combining chemicals, and they were the ancient chemists. They were trying to find out, what was the foundation stone, what was the philosopher's stone. And now I think because of the internet, a lot of what was once held secret is available to people much more readily.
We're more open as receivers to get that information.
And the mystery schools aren't as closed down as they used to be.
Yeah, and the internet has
because they were dying. I think they were dying. Not that they were dying, but that they saw, like Steiner, 100 years ago, and in the 1930s, 20s, and 30s, Steiner was saying that there was going to be a force on Earth that was a transhuman force. He called it an Ahrimanic force. And that this Ahrimanic force, or Ahriman force, I don't know, people say it different ways, that it would trap humans into a machine. And that it would spiritually trap them into something called the eighth sphere. And that they would be trapped, and their reincarnations would just continue to be incarnated again and again in this machine incarnation. And what he was talking about 100 years ago was how do we deal with these forces that are coming in that are so strong. So mystery schools know what is unfolding for humans, but they also respect human will and human sovereignty.
Interesting. Now, on that note, from your coaching and from your website, you also state that your coaching can help clarify your mission, which links into the mystery schools. Do we all have missions here?
I personally would say that if you're a human, you have a mission. That's part of your soul contract. That's part of your soul contract for why you came into this human body, why you incarnated. There is some meaning and purpose behind it. That every life has meaning.
Yeah, which
We
is
may
what we like to
kill
think of, isn't
another
it?
person, but that person had a meaning to live their life through.
Yeah. The mission, though, does it suggest, and I don't think this, by the way, but I just want to
Mhm.
throw it out there as a concept so we can discuss it. If there's a mission to every person or being that incarnates on this planet, are we in a way slaves to something else?
Ourself.
Because are we giving ourselves the mission?
Yeah, we give ourselves this mission.
Right. So is that what we would call the higher self?
Yes.
So we are giving the physical version of
Mhm.
me a mission to do X, Y, or Z. I see. So we're slaves to ourselves. I like that. I was being nefarious with my thoughts there when I like some sort of external factor saying being
No, I
the
think it's a
puppet
good
master.
question. It's a good question
And
because
it's
I
a good
think
answer.
once you incarnate in, then yeah, you can be subject to a lot of different forces that weren't part of your mission, and you get diverted, and you get tricked, and you get held hostage, or you hold yourself hostage.
Hmm. Isn't that ultimately then what contact experience is for? Is it to wake us up and remind us of the mission?
I think it's one avenue. I think some people um, get to it through contact. I think some people get to it through near-death experiences,
Oh
certainly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some people get to it through like such, Kundalini type experiences that happen in their body. Some people get to it through illness, where they end up becoming their own self-healer. And maybe that became that's the mission that they came in to get sick so they could realize that they were a healer. Some people get tricked into, for example, harmonic machine type influences and get a chip in their head that they then have to get extracted so that they can wake up to what their mission was. So, the Earth is always has an aspect of kind of a laboratory that mission's going to come out one way or the other. Some people come in with a mission to be a parent. Some people come in to be a mission to garden the earth. Um, it's just everybody's different. One way or the other, that mission's going to come out. So some people join the military because they have this overwhelming mission that they're really here to protect and to serve humanity and keep it alive, not necessarily to kill each other. So. Yeah, I think it comes in, it's so varied. But it's gonna come out. And you better get out of the way. Your ego and your stubbornness better get out of the way and allow it to come forward.
Do you think there are people out there that have a mission but just don't know they've got the mission? Or they certainly don't think about it like I'm thinking about it with you now, yeah? Because I'm pondering mission in life and
I think that's really different. I think some children come in absolutely clued in. This is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to work with. I mean, look at some children that come in and they're these dancers or genius mathematicians or, pianists or, musicians. And it's like they are like locked on, mission locked on from
yeah.
early childhood. And then other people, it takes a lot of initiations, maybe illness, maybe questions, maybe divorce, maybe loss, whatever you work through to say, wow, now I know my mission and own it. But I think that also isn't fate. That's also something that we planned because we really do know ourselves more than we're led to believe.
This is going to
I,
branch then right now into then the soul contract side of things. Another thing I've discussed with quite a few people before. Can I have your thoughts on that? What do you think it is? Who's doing it, and for why? Again,
I think, I go back again. We're doing it. We're doing it to ourselves. And I think there's different soul contracts. I think some people have a soul contract with God and benevolence. And I think some people have soul contracts with other nefarious entities that they've probably had throughout lifetimes. And I think and I think some people, I think what Rudolf Steiner was telling us was that some people will have soul contracts with machines.
and those are existing machines out there in the cosmos or whatever, or are they ones that exist here already, or ones that will
I think,
come?
I think it's a, it's something that forces are creating as well as humans. So humans in a soul contract with forces are creating.
And they exist here now. These machines, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, transhumanism is unfolding incredibly fast. I mean, there's a lot of propaganda around it, a lot of propaganda around AI. But yeah, I think they have a soul contract with that.
Okay.
And that soul contract with transhumanism or that soul contract with AI, it's also forcing those people who don't have that soul contract to work at an even higher level. That's what I'm seeing. That's just
Okay.
my
Can you
perspective.
expand on that a bit? Because so not everyone has a soul contract.
No, everyone has a soul contract.
So can you
It's just there's different entities or beings they have a soul contract with. Everybody doesn't have the same. The forces may be different.
all right, so the guiding whatever behind the soul contract
Hmm.
is different, therefore creating a different path.
Hmm.
Let's play devil's advocate again. How do we know that exoconsciousness and the co-creation is the correct path for humans versus transhumanism? Because I know you would go down the exoconscious route, and I would as well, by the way. But let's play devil's advocate. What happened? Is transhumanism another path? Could that be the better one for humanity?
Well, I would say one of the reasons that co-creation is so important to exoconscious humans is because we're moving into an era now where people are keenly aware of the cosmos. We have all the telescopes, we have all the, planetary information coming in. Space is alive for humans today. And as that space becomes alive, the beings that are cosmic with whom we align are coming forward. And so one of the ways I would say the biggest way to prove extraterrestrial contact is by our fruits or by our work. Or if we're connecting to benevolent beings, then we're bringing in something that's healthy, something that's sane, something that's alive and good,
Yeah, no, that's fair. And we haven't.
something that fosters humans to advance and grow, something that fosters human freedom, human free will, human creativity. Is it fostering that or is it suppressing and killing that? If it's fostering that, then it's good.
And I'm with you, by the way. I always think, err on the side of creativity means you're a positive being. Those who
Sure.
destroy, the other way.
Yeah.
Although that said, like like with everything, is balance, isn't there? And you can't.
Hmm.
It's like a forest fire; it destroys, but then life comes out of that destruction. It's like part of life. So,
Hmm.
therefore, are the nefarious beings and entities a needed part of the whole cycle of
Well, I
everything?
think yes, because, back to your original question, I feel like in terms of transhumanism in particular, um, so transhuman, I'll just define it. So
Yeah, yeah, flash.
transhumanism is is the belief. So it's a belief system. It's a belief that humans need electronically engineered extensions, digital extensions, for example, Neuralink extensions, biodigital extensions, in order for humankind to advance. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's their belief. My belief as an exoconscious human is that we have all the equipment we need. Natural human consciousness was given all of the equipment it needs, and that we will be going through a period where more and more knowledge is going to be coming online about who we are, and we're going to be realizing more and more who we are. Now, is transhuman pushing us to accomplish that? I would say yes, absolutely. I mean, there's things today that I study, there's information today that is coming into me that 10 years, 15 years ago, it didn't even cross my mind, didn't even cross my consciousness. Like, I'm developing abilities around that. I think transhumanism is pushing the human button to say, are you going to are you going to embrace transhumanism as your path and become a machine? Because that's the belief. The belief of transhumanism is this is the path where you will become the machine. Or are you going to look at AI, look at transhumanism and say, wow, this may be a path by which I, as a natural human, can really evolve to places that I never dreamed I could evolve to,
So
because it's raising so many issues within me.
so is it a case of that these technologies and stuff come about just to help push us further along a certain direction? They're like growth spurts in a way, aren't they? They're
Yeah,
pushing us.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that I think we humans invented technology. We humans invented AI. We humans invented bombs, for example.
Mm.
I mean, look at the lesson from that. I think every creative adventure is to evolve, the human species. We're a species.
Yeah, and I
So I'm not
certainly don't ever
afraid
want
of
to become.
AI.
No,
Yeah,
me
I'm
neither.
not afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of transhumanism. I'm not going to become transhuman.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I may use the tools and like the tools, but a lot of my work also, Koi, goes into attachment theory. So the kind of the history of how humans were psychologically manipulated to want to attract to machines. Like, why is it that we want to attract to machines? Why is it that, we want to scroll on our phones? Why is that? And so that information has actually helped me advance, because it's helped me see how I attach, how my patterns of attachment are formed, how other people around me, how their attachments are formed, and what that means.
Is that more psychology rather than anything else? Presumably, isn't it? Or did you mean attachment are like a demon entity attaching to us?
No, for me, it's more of a psychological, but I think anything psychological goes into, the human heart attachment. So we really attach through our heart. We may think, oh, I'm attaching through our mind, but you're really attaching through your heart. You're attaching through your hormonal system, because people that scroll all the time get these hits of dopamine,
Mm.
endless dopamine, and it actually shuts down part of their brain, quite frankly. It
It's
shuts down their
a
frontal
big
cortex
time eater, and it
frontal.
don't have to kill my creativity, so I don't like to do any of
Right,
that. Yeah.
right, right. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of helps us understand our nervous system. It helps us understand our heart. It helps me understand, what am I really looking for in life? Why am I attaching? What am I looking for? And why is that present in my life? And then again, it's actually becomes a question of, what does my heart really want? What does this nervous system within me really want and need to be the healthiest that it can be.
The thing is, right, Rebecca, you're analyzing correctly. And I do the same thing, by the way, with myself. I turn inward and really understand and know myself. But there's probably millions of what I might call sheeple out there that don't care. They're just going to pick up their phone and go, oh, and then they don't
Well,
think.
that's attachment. They're attaching.
Yeah. But then they don't think that they're attaching, do they? Because they're not sort of like
No.
aware of it.
See, part of what happened with all of this, and it's all coming out now, so humans are going to be aware of kind of the game that's been played on them because it really all came about World War One, brought a lot of it to the fore. So World War One was really a chemical biological warfare. So they would put these troops down in the trenches and they'd spray them with chemicals and they came home shell shocked. And not only did they come home shell shocked, but then they came home and got the Spanish flu. Many of them had died. It was a 1-2 punch of
Hmm.
chemicals. And so that work on shell shocked soldiers was something that in Britain, the Tavistock Institute started to get into, engage in. Like, but it wasn't to heal the shell shock soldiers, it was to find out how we can further manipulate humans with trauma and with chemicals.
Yeah. And they did more experiments in the 60s and 70s and Porton Down to do the same thing.
Yeah, the whole drug experimentation, the whole, 60s drug experimentation, that LSD, that
Hmm.
marijuana, all that was brought in by Intel and CIA and this military operations of how to control humans. And so if you're and then, World War II happened, there was more of the same. And then the Macy conferences brought in here in America were like the next step of Tavistock. And that's where the attachment theory grew out of that also. Um, why do we attach? So when when we have when our soul and our spirit urges us to know what's going on, we're going to be exploring that. We're going to be exploring our attachments.
Yeah. Really understanding what we do and why. May I segue to your paranormal experiences, if that's okay? Now, I
Sure.
know you're an experiencer yourself. I haven't
Hmm.
looked into your story at all on purpose
Hmm.
because I like to discover as along with the people listening. So, can you let me know of your contact experience, however that may manifest? When did it start? What happened to you? And is it still going on?
Sure. So I'm what's called a childhood experiencer. So there are people that are crib experiencers. There are people that are in utero. There are experiencers. There are people that are had experiences prior to even coming in. They're consciously aware of that. I'm more consciously aware of my experiences in childhood. What when I became more conscious of the beings. So I lived in a kind of a small city in West Virginia called Clarksburg, and it was a mining town.
Okay.
So the Brits are familiar with mining towns. Lots of English, Celtic, Irish people there. Um, and I was simultaneously, as a child, taken into the earth, like aware that I'm down in the earth,
Whoa.
as well as going into the craft with the extraterrestrials. Had a lot of, visitations at night and also visitations during the day. And And I knew instinctively that underground, the beings that I would meet underground were connected to the beings in the cosmos. I didn't know how,
Hmm.
but I was participating in some kind of like almost like underground shamanic work along with in the craft kind of contactee work
So they were
as a
were they
child.
two separate beings or species or whatever they are?
They were two separate species,
Whoa.
but they were connected.
Exoconsciously, presumably, or in
I would
physicality.
say, yeah, could be species connected, it could be exoconscious connected, could be, I don't know, but I knew and I know now, and I know that they are connected because they were connected in my experience.
What were it? Were they what you would call alien greys, or is it a different sort of being?
Mm, no, not real. Some. I would say under the ground, I had what I felt like was a lot of reptilian contact, but it was always very benevolent and
Oh,
I felt like they were more of a guardian of the earth, a feature of the guardian of the earth, but also that the earth I was kind of shown that the earth was alive. And I never really knew what I was doing down there as a child until actually in adulthood. I remember I was sitting on a porch reading a book on shamanism, and I'm like, oh, like I like came in as a shaman under the ground, working with the forces within the earth. Like that's really part of who I am. And then on the craft, I think there was a reptilian presence on the craft, as well as there were also a lot of on the craft. I'm mostly connected with, I guess I would identify them kind of as tall white beings, Arcturian type beings, um, as some grays, yeah, but primarily, yeah, tall whites, that sort of Nordic, Palladian type beings.
how would you get then from presumably you were in your room or when you're out or wherever you were? How would you get from A to B or C? What would happen to you?
Well, I think at that point, there was some kind of contract that I came in with that I was able to do that. I think I was kind of front loaded. We need to look at some people like, their parents tee them up to like a big corporate job, or their parents tee them up to some kind of, medical career or whatever, legal career. I don't know. I think I kind of got front loaded with psychic abilities, with psychic sight. I came in like that.
Yeah, so you're what I probably need to just clarify a bit. How did you physically get from A to B? Were you like abducted and then transported in a craft up somewhere, or were you phased, or were you astral traveling to your
Well, see,
contacts?
part of this is so humans don't really become cognitive. So humans don't become totally cognitive, logical reasoning, awareness until they're like 3 or 4 years old. Okay.
Hmm.
So I would say probably a great deal out of it. So childhood is kind of seamless. So children live in a seamless world, unless they're hugely traumatized and fractured. But most children live in this kind of magical, seamless little world. So I would say as a child, as a childhood experiencer, much of my early contact was seamless. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what they were doing. It was seamless. As I got older, I started to really pick apart like what the heck happened to me? Like, wow, like what happened? And so that's when I got really into ufology and the paranormal and um, different, got aware of different programs like MK Ultra and different mind control programs, um, looking at, how that, was I part, my big question was always like, was I part of an experiment or did I come into this naturally? I think I've come to the peace of mind that I probably just came into this naturally. I don't think I do think there were people in my childhood that were poking around trying to find out who I was. But I think bottom line or baseline, I came in front loaded with this.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to push a point because I'm struggling to get this through in my mind. You had contact experience with aliens or beings or whatever in early childhood. Did it stop there, or have you had them since to then
Oh no,
really
it never
understand what's
stopped.
happening?
Yeah, it
Is it
never
still happening
stopped.
today?
Oh yeah.
So, what does your adult brain tell you about what's happening? how do you, I mean, do they just come into your room and say, "Hi, Rebecca, we're taking you now," and you go? How do you what happens?
I think a lot of it happens with what you were talking about in terms of creativity. So, like you, I ask every morning to be guided, to have the guidance and wisdom to know my higher self, to know, God's will for my life, to be pursuing a benevolent path. But sometimes it's, a being will come in
Hmm.
very visibly, or I will just be told something and it will be like a voice, like, here's the message. And then
Nice.
it'll be a couple of days, I'll be what's that message mean? Like, what's going on here? Like before 9/11, like I dreamt 9/11. I knew 9/11 was going to happen. And then prior to COVID, a voice came in just about the time I was waking, and it said, "You will be quarantined."
Presumably, at that point, you didn't understand what was going on, really.
Well, yes and no. So I had been living in Washington, D.C. I had been writing my book, Exoconscious Humans. So I was well aware that there was going to be some kind of chemical biological weapon experiment because I knew about, Gates and the war games of Event 102 or 201, whatever it is, that they had planned these that they had pandemic games going on. And I knew a lot about chemical biological warfare because a lot of it went on outside of Washington, D.C. At Fort Detrick. So I knew about that, and I knew about the chemical biological warfare in World War One and World War Two. So I knew something was coming. I didn't know what it was, but when the voice came in and said you were quarantined, I knew it was coming, and it was now.
And what's the last contact you've had?
Oh, good question. Actually, the last, last contact I had was this voice came in and it said Reagan. And I'm
Okay.
like Ronald Reagan, the president, Reagan. And I'm like, it took me a few days. I'm like, Reagan, like, why Reagan? But our community's been working on something called the Planetary Constitution. And we wrote a Planetary Constitution that's up on our YouTube. And and people from the community are reading it, but it's about human rights in space as we move into space. And it's also about the importance of contactees, of able to connect with intelligent life beyond Earth, and that we are necessary as a part of space exploration, that we're very important. And so what I found out was that from the Reagan message was that um, Reagan started SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative. And so he kind of started this anti-missile program, weapons in space.
In Star Wars thing.
Yeah, the beginning of Star Wars, beginning of weapons in space. And then he realized that that was a very militarized, weaponized kind of initiative. And so he created the Space Commission to sort of soften and bring more yin into the SDI. And so now President Trump is, talking about the dome, another Star Wars initiative, another SDI. So he's raising this whole specter of what Reagan first brought in and taking it to a whole other level of space weapons. And I think that I think I was told Reagan because I was to see the similarity between what Reagan had done and realized and what really needs to happen, at least to our country, my country of the United States, my sovereign country, that to raise these weapons in space initiative, we either need a treaty on this or we need the Constitution, the planetary Constitution by extraterrestrials to bring in this added dimension of looking at the cooperative forces of extraterrestrials and how we as contactees can foster what we're doing in a more humane, peaceful world instead of attacking each other.
Which is a noble thing. That Reagan message, was it just for you, or do you think that same message went out and thousands of people picked it up?
No. All I have
Yeah.
to worry about is me. I'm pretty much a person that I stay in my lane. I don't really care about I'm not a guru. I just stay in my lane. If I got the message
Cool.
and it relates to something that I know I need to carry forward, then I'll carry it forward. Um, I stay in my lane.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Have you had any other paranormal experiences besides those ones? Like, have you seen ghosts or anything else?
Oh yeah, I know ghosts. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. They're
Go
pretty
on,
obvious.
give us a tale.
Um, uh, so I was with my family in Columbus, Ohio. My brother belongs to this club called the Columbus Club or something like that.
Hmm.
And it's an older building. And I went to the bathroom and I'm like washing my hands, and this being comes in, this woman comes in and starts talking to me, this ghost. And so later on, we're leaving, and I looked at the woman, like the hostess, and the woman that was working, it was winter, it was work, some woman was working in the coat room, and I said, there's a ghost here. I talked to her, and they looked at me and they said, oh yeah, there's a ghost here, and she talks to some people. So that was like one of the,
How did you know she was a ghost? May I ask?
because she was telepathically talking to me.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was telepathically talking to me. Yeah.
Did it frighten you, or did you just is normal sort of
No,
thing?
kind of frightened my brother, but
I bet.
it's like, no, it didn't frighten my brother. I'm teasing. No, it was just, I don't know. They're just pretty easy to pick up. I've also had some paranormal experiences. Um, I would say probably 20 years ago. I was a single mom for about 10 years, raising my children by myself, and it's pretty economically challenging, very
Mm,
economically challenging, I would say. Um, And I was working at a school. I did career counseling, I did PR, publicity, that sort of thing at the school. And um, one day, so a new woman came in to be the superintendent of the school, and it was kind of like a secondary and a post-secondary kind of college as well as a high school, but
okay.
it's a technical school. And I remember I got moved over into career counseling, and I can tell that, when a new person comes in, there's lots of changes. She wants to bring in her own people. And I could tell that she was bringing in people. And it's kind of like, oh,
Mm,
am I going to be okay? I need this job to raise these kids. And what's going to happen? And the woman who became my personal supervisor would walk down the hallway of where I was working, down by my office. She would walk past my office, and I would like know how sick she was, that she was so sick. But I didn't really feel comfortable telling her because I felt like, oh, do you really want to tell her? Because you're going to lose your job if she doesn't like what you tell her. And then you'll
mm.
for sure probably lose your job if she doesn't want to be sick. And then about a week later, she calls us all together and she said that she had cancer. And then shortly after that, she came in my office and sat down and we were talking. And I told her that I had seen her cancer. And she goes, what are you picking up? And I said, honestly, I'm picking up that there's someone with you. And she was a really devout educator. I mean, she loved being an educator. Her heart was 1,000% in it. And I said, there's someone with you. And I said, all I know is he keeps showing me, it's a man, and he keeps showing me a pair of glasses. And she goes, I don't get it. I don't get it. So that was a Friday actually. And so After the weekend, she came in my office Monday morning and she said, I went home and she goes, I pulled open a drawer and I was cleaning it out. And there were a pair of glasses there that belonged to the man who mentored me as an educator, who really loved me into being an educator. And he gifted me his glasses. And I said, well, there's your person. She said, he's passed away. And I said, there's your person. There's your
So,
person that's going to be with you.
so this guy was just. Did he send you the image of the cancer? Is that what that is?
No, I don't know. I think it was really kind of a maybe, but I think it was kind of a disconnected thing. I saw the cancer in her body. And then when she came in and started talking to me about having cancer, then I saw the man with the glasses. And the glasses were shown to me, and then it all made sense to her.
No, that's fair enough. I'm fascinated with this whole you saw the cancer thing. How did you see it? Like, did you see it
You
when she was
know,
walking by
I'll
you,
be
or is it?
honest. I'll be honest, Coit. Like I said, I was a single mom. I was under a lot of economic pressure, and I would be in the freaking grocery store pushing my grocery cart, and I would come and back or front of somebody, and I'd know they were sick.
Mm.
And I just knew, I would send them love, I would send them healing, but I knew that that really wasn't my mission here in life. That yes, I could see these things, but my children and being a mom to my children was my first priority.
Yeah, that's fair play. I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? If you've got kids,
Yeah.
I've never had kids, so
And
I wouldn't
then
know, but I do understand
yeah,
that.
that was my first priority. And that was going to keep me grounded. And that was going to, they were going to, my love for them and their love for me was going to keep me grounded, keep me on my path, show me where I go or show me where I don't go.
Which is fair enough.
And what
Like,
I could do and not be overwhelmed, because that kind of sight can become very overwhelming.
yeah, because you don't want too much coming at you all the time.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
see it, this cancer? How did it present itself to you so that you knew, right, she's got lung cancer, as an example?
I just I just read her cellular body. I don't know.
So you
I'm
just,
not a
is it just a
physician.
knowing, or you just
Yeah,
see
it's
it?
just a knowing. Yeah, I do that a lot in my therapy. Even when I was young, I was a chaplain at a university. I worked for 9 different Protestant denominations, and I worked with Roman Catholics. And I would marry people, and I would sit down with them before I'd marry them, and I would have them come in. I was young; I was like in my 20s, and I had them come in later. They'd be on campus for something, and they come in years later, maybe for alumni or whatever, and they'd say, we just wanted to come in and say hi and say that, the things that you shared with us that were going to be issues that we had to face, every one of them came true.
Hmm.
And they said, thank you. Thank you for kind of giving us a heads up. I don't know. I don't know how I knew that. Um, I just, I don't know. I just use it in my therapy. I just know. I just see things.
It's weird, isn't it? See, this goes back to something I said to you earlier. It's weird how these things work, and in
Yeah.
a way, we don't know how it works, but we accept it and just use it.
Yeah, it's like Michelangelo was Michelangelo that carved David. He would say, I just saw this figure come out of the marble. How did you know that figure was in there? Well, I don't know. It just came out.
Yeah, he dug it out of it, so to speak. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just kind of I just see I just see these things. It's just like people with perfect pitch. Like, how they get perfect pitch? I don't know.
Lucky, lucky in
Or
nature. I think
people
half the
that
time.
are or people that are mathematic savants. I mean, they just come in with this that height and sense, and hopefully they use it. And I find out, Hoyt, that the more I use it, the better it is.
Yeah,
The
it's like
better is. But I
training
had to
yourself.
go through. Yeah, I do. I mean, there were times in my adulthood when I was raising my children that whole thing of being overwhelmed, like seeing ill people and being overwhelmed, I knew that I had to learn some kind of balancing techniques with all that. That I had to balance what I was seeing, that I had to get my nervous system. It's like kind of like going to the gym. So it's like I had to get my mental and physical body strong enough so that I could do this work and not be overwhelmed.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from other mediums and stuff
Yeah.
that I've spoken to that say there's a very, very same thing. Now, before we enter the Koit zone, Rebecca, I have one question that I wrote down as part of our conversation. Kind of a big question again. Consciousness. Did physical beings create the consciousness, or did the consciousness create this world? It's the chicken and the egg thing.
I'm more of consciousness is a fundamental of the universe. It's a fundamental law of the universe. That's a creative fundamental law of the universe.
So it
And I
existed,
mean,
created this.
sure, yeah, it goes
Yeah.
back to the whole, theological underpinnings of God. What's God? It's a creative force. And am I going to use that creative force to, invent an atom bomb or invent something that's going to take over some human's mind? Or am I going to use that creative force for good and for light and for kindness? That's my choice.
Yes, and I like that, and we'll leave the main interview on that, which is everyone watching this or listening, you have a choice. Choose wisely and choose for the positive. I think that's where I'll end that main bit on.
Right.
Lovely. Right, for now, Rebecca, it is time for the Koit Zone. Koit Zone! So, random questions coming at you. Answer best you can. What is your favourite film?
I don't think I have one.
That's okay. You're
I
not
don't even
alone
have
in
a
answering that way.
we don't even have a TV.
Do you not? Whoa.
Yeah, so we got rid of our TV about 12 years ago, so I'm not really.
No, that's
I
okay.
kind of I like a mystery. I like a good mystery or whatever. I
I'll
like because
choose
the
one
puzzle
for you.
pieces. Yeah. Yeah, you can choose one for me.
What food item do you hate?
I don't
That
think
means
I
you eat
do.
everything.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much I
Wow.
eat everything.
Wow. Not
I
even
mean,
one
there's
thing.
some things that I did digest easier than other things,
Sure,
but
sure.
I don't actually, I kind of like the things I can't digest, but whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
Wow.
I'm kind of boring. Sorry.
No, that's not boring. That's amazing because that means you can eat anything that's put in front of you. See, I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
I'll
wow,
try
wow,
it.
wow. Have you ever broken a bone?
Oh, I broke my little finger one time.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, I was goofing around with, those old fire escapes that go up the side of schools,
Oh, the ladders and stuff.
the ladders.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was goofing around with my brothers and my cousins, and we were throwing the basketball off the fire escape, and I crushed my little finger in it
Oh, God.
and broke it. But I'm not very interesting there either. Sorry.
No, that's a good thing. I've had so many people that I've asked that question to that have not broken a bone. So you've got
Yeah.
1-0 on them. So
One
you're winning.
bone. Yeah.
What is the most dangerous activity you've ever participated in?
Being married to an alcoholic.
Oh, wow. That's an
Sorry, truth.
unexpected answer, but I like it again.
Yeah.
Not, I also like it and don't like it at the same time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. Um,
Big initiation.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
What's the best cartoon? I know you don't have a
Oh,
TV
I
now,
like
but you
this.
did.
Yeah. I mean, when I had a TV, I used to like The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. The
Yeah.
Simpsons.
Simpsons.
You just have to do
Actually,
that.
the one girl that plays, a woman plays, I don't know what the Simpsons primary character. I forget his name.
Bart?
Anyway, it's a woman. Yeah, Bart. Bart Simpson is a woman, and
Oh,
she
in
used
real
to
life,
live
that's
in,
right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and she used to live in Dayton, Ohio, where I used to live.
Quality,
Yeah.
quality. Do you think animals truly understand language? And so when you talk to them, they know what you're saying. They just don't want to answer. They just can't be bothered.
Absolutely. I used to do some animal communication. I don't really do it too much anymore, but one of my friends had a horse and she goes, this is one of the teachers that I worked with, and she goes, will you come out and talk to my horse? And I went, no, I don't really do that very much, but yeah, sure. And sure enough, I'm out there and I just kind of got to know the horse and I said to it, you know, that your owner, Sue, she's having a hard time with you. Do you have any idea of, what you need? And the horse told me right away that she was feeding him the wrong kind of hay. And I just turned to her, I said, I think you're feeding your horse the wrong kind of hay. And she would, I changed the hay a few months ago. He doesn't like it, does he? And I said, no, he doesn't like it.
Win again for Rebecca there. Yeah, wow. My girlfriend does horses and she's fascinated by animal
Yeah.
soul communicators. So thank you for that one.
We also have so she may be interested in
Mhm.
going on our Exoconscious Humans website. So there's a woman on our website called Kim, and she's an animal communicator. So
I
she'll
shall
like to
look
read her
her up.
information. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
There's a lot of training with animal communicators.
I have spoken to a couple of animal communicators in the past. Again, a massive fascinating arena for me.
Yeah.
Animals are a big, it's one of those things like at least me and you could verbally talk, even though like you may be able to be telepathic as an example. I don't think I am, but I can speak to you verbally. But animals are a mystery, apart from their body language, which I can
Right.
understand.
Right.
But the rest of it, a mystery. Have you ever been badly sunburnt
Probably.
on the little finger?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah. Because I was an absolute sun worshiper for years. Even my sister said, you would just lie in the sun for hours. I was a huge sun worshiper. I never really got burned extremely badly, and now I live in Phoenix and my husband and I will go other places and we're like, where's the sun? We need the
Oh
sun.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Arizona, very dry, is it? Is it
yeah,
desert,
very
is it?
dry, very sunny. Yeah, your body kind of gets accustomed to all the sunlight and then when you don't have it, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
I lived in Ohio for
Welcome to
years, and
England. Yeah.
yeah, I lived in Ohio for years, and I mean the sun at Thanksgiving, the sun would leave and it wouldn't come out until after Easter. And fortunately, for me, we were able to go to Florida and spend incredible amounts of time in Florida. And I was just like, I can't do Ohio. And then we moved out west, and I went, okay, this works for me. No
Well,
ocean, but it's got the sun.
sure. Well, there's that thing, isn't there? SADS, season affective
I
disorder.
had
That
that.
is the
Yeah, I
thing.
had
It is
that.
a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a thing.
it
Yeah.
really is. What do you think is the best flavor?
I like vanilla. I'm not a
Ah,
chocolate person. I like caramel. I like vanilla.
I like the way you jump straight to almost ice cream flavors on that one.
Yeah. I'm not really an ice cream fan either, interestingly enough.
See, I am, and I
But
would.
I like vanilla creamer in my coffee.
There, that's where it comes in. Gotcha. Last question in the Koit zone. If a pill was invented for us to live forever, would you take it?
No,
Okay.
no.
Why?
Um, I think part of the reality of being a human is in we're in a zero-sum game and we all get zeroed out.
You like
And I
that, do
think
you?
this, yeah, I like it. And actually, I think transhumanism is trying to trying to sell people on the belief that they're immortal and they're gonna, get their consciousness and digitalized and put up in the cloud and they're going to live forever. And I think, humans are always trying to outsmart that zero-sum game they're in. And good luck.
But you're okay not outsmarting it. You just,
Well,
it's
yeah,
good.
because
You're
I
good with
think
it.
that death actually helps us evolve. That death is part of our evolution.
Fascinating again, isn't it? Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can ask one more supplementary question, and this isn't part of the Koit zone, by the way, because clearly this is a standard question. Are you looking forward to death?
My father was a minister. He was a clergy. And so he did a lot of funerals. And he would take me and we would spend the much of the quality time I spent with my father was he would say to me, "Do you want to go to the funeral home with me?" And I would go to the funeral home with my father and hang out while he did the funeral.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of always around death, and I was never afraid of it because of that.
Yeah. I'm not either. I don't care
Yeah, I
what
never
happens
was.
to
I
happen,
never
but
have been. Yeah. I mean, is it traumatic? Is it traumatic and sad? Yeah, the loss part of it, but I'm not afraid of it. I'd
would you
probably be
say you're
afraid of
looking
it if I
forward
was,
to it?
well, I mean, I think it's part of my soul advancement. So when that time comes and my soul's ready to advance into that next place. It's funny, like I've just been getting a message lately that I'm going to get repotted.
Very
You know
nice.
how you repot plants and their roots
Mhm.
get too tight and they need to be torn apart and they need to be put in a bigger container? I kind of feel like I'm getting repotted into a bigger container. So I'm kind of
Wow.
like, it's going to be kind of fun to see what happens.
But the thing is, will you remember it as you? So that you'll
Yeah,
know
because
that, oh, look,
I'll
it's me
have all
being
my
repotted.
roots. I'll have all my roots in place.
Mm.
I'll just be able to put the roots out. My roots can grow out into new soil.
Mm.
It's kind of like I told that to um, a woman that taught I don't know what class she taught, yoga class or whatever, Pilates class. And I was sharing with her that I had that image that was going to happen to me. And she goes, "Oh," she goes, "Do you know what eagles do?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Eagles, as they're aging, they will hit their beak against something repeatedly. And until they break their beak, their old beak breaks off. And then a new beak forms, and they'll take the new beak and they'll pick off all the old feathers so that they can get new feathers."
So if I
That's
pick
another
all my skin,
repotting.
will it come off? Well, I will get new
Yeah,
skin,
yeah,
wouldn't I?
yeah. You
Yeah.
do get new skin all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know what's going on. I'm just sharing
I
that.
like it. Right. Okay. Last questions before we wrap this up. Downtime. What do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities or guilty pleasures? What do you do?
Oh, I'm a big workout person. Yeah, I work out most days.
Fair
I
play
go
to
to
you.
the gym and work out, and I pretty much do a lot of classes. I love that. So I enjoy that. I like the music. I like the movement. I do a lot of Pilates, do a lot of yoga, different kinds of classes. I also go to the gym and lift weights. And then I'm cook. I cook a lot. I cook every day. I
Vanilla.
like to
Yeah.
cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to cook. Raising children, that's a big thing. You sit around the table, you talk, you get to know your children, you get to know yourself. So
Mm,
yeah, now it's just my husband and me. But we have a lot of children, so they're all grown. But yeah, I cook every day. I love to cook. It
lovely.
grounds me.
Yeah, cooking's nice. I like
I'm a
that as
big
well.
reader too. I'm a voracious reader.
Well, that's
Read a lot
it.
of books.
I,
My
I, I
husband's
read
like,
I read by talking to people.
"Oh yeah, it's
Do you know what I
great."
mean?
Yeah.
I'm watching TV and I don't. I know you haven't got a TV, but I get my
Yeah.
information via moving things. I can't read.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
read, but I don't like to read.
Yeah, you don't like to read. Yeah, it's like I do a Substack. So I have a Substack, Rebecca Hardcastle Wright at Substack. Do you know Substack?
I do. I've actually got it linked in the description to this video to
Okay,
your very
thank you.
Substack.
Thank you. And so for people that don't like to read, I record my Substacks so they can listen to them. And then somebody contacted me the other day and she goes, "I really like your Substacks, but I can't read all of them. Would you write a summary?" And so now I record them and then I write a summary and then I actually write the Substack. or yeah, write the Substack and then write the summary.
You're
Really,
going to get someone who's going to write in and say, "Now, can you draw a picture?" And
to
then
draw
you're
a
going to have
picture.
to
Oh, no, I do that. I actually go on and like create images so I can like do the whole. But you know, that's all about learning styles. Like everybody
Yes,
learns
yes.
differently. Yeah, visual, auditory. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's definitely that versus reading. So well done
Yeah,
on you for
hands-on
doing that. I've never
kinesthetic.
seen anyone do
Yeah.
it that. So well played.
Yeah. Well, I try to do that.
Yeah, it's very nice, very very kind. Last thing, upcoming projects or your future. What are you currently working on?
I'm certainly working on moving forward the planetary constitution. I'm certainly working forward to working with my coaching groups, our coaching groups that I'm a participant in as well as a facilitator. I'm looking forward to, I want to do a workshop in the future on plasma science, because that holds, I think, a lot of answers, scientific answers to what's happening right now, and teach people about that. I'm looking forward to continue writing my Substacks, and because writing helps me collect my thoughts and put them into a form.
Yeah, that's your creative outlet. Lovely.
Right.
Yeah. Quality. Well, thank you ever so much, Rebecca, for your time today and for your answers to my no doubt weird and strange and wonderful questions. So
I love it.
thank you ever so much. Links to Rebecca's site and everything is in the description, so everyone watching or listening, go and check those out. Rebecca, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, everyone. See you on the next one. Thank you, Rebecca. I shall leave that there. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.